Rain dragged slowly across the tall, narrow windows of the records office, distorting the faint glow of streetlights outside into smeared streaks of amber. Elin Ward sat alone at her desk, posture slightly hunched, fingers moving methodically through decades-old files that smelled faintly of dust and damp paper. Everything about the room felt tired, metal shelves bowed under weight, labels faded into near illegibility, fluorescent lights humming with a low, persistent vibration that seemed to settle into her skull. Nothing ever changed here. That was the comfort of archives, fixed, reliable, frozen in time. Until box 47B. Its label was wrong immediately. Not just faded or misprinted, wrong. It read 1978 infrastructure reports, yet the contents were sharp, modern, almost new. Glossy photographs slipped beneath her fingers, smooth and cold. Elin paused, frowning slightly, pulling one free. Her eyes adjusted, scanning details automatically, the street, the angle, the buildings. Recognition came quickly. It was outside. Right outside this building. Same cracked pavement. Same warped lamppost leaning slightly to the left. Same uneven curb. But something stood at the far end of the street. Tall. Not fully clear, like something caught mid-motion, blurred but deliberate. Elin's eyes flicked instinctively to the window beside her. Rain. Empty street. Nothing unusual. Her reflection stared back faintly, distorted by water trails. She looked back down. Her fingers tightened slightly around the photo. The timestamp wasn't just recent. It was tomorrow. Marcus Hale didn't react the way Elin expected. He didn't laugh, didn't brush it off immediately. Instead, he stared longer than necessary, jaw tightening slightly as he flipped through the contents of the folder with slow, deliberate care. His usual confidence, the quiet certainty he carried through years of cataloging, felt thinner here, like something stretched too far. These things happen, he said eventually, though his tone lacked its usual firmness. Wrong box, wrong print batch, someone misfiled something decades ago. Elin didn't answer. She slid another sheet toward him. Maps. At first glance, they looked normal, city layouts, infrastructure markings, but the longer you looked, the more they shifted. Streets that should connect didn't. Buildings appeared where empty lots existed. Entire sections felt rearranged. She tapped one location. Look. Marcus leaned in. His brow furrowed. That alley doesn't exist. Not anymore, Elin corrected quietly. Another version of the same map showed something else beneath the building they stood in now. A marked section. Sublevel access. Marcus leaned back slowly. His hand lingered on the page longer than necessary. That used to be part of the old structure, he admitted. Sealed off years ago. Unsafe. Elin flipped the page again. Every document. Every photo, every single timestamp. Future dates. Marcus didn't say anything this time. By the time the building emptied, silence had settled into something heavier than usual. Elin could hear everything, each footstep echoing faintly, each distant creak stretching longer than it should. The office no longer felt like a place of storage. It felt like something waiting. Finding the door was easier than it should have been. Hidden behind shelving, just as the map suggested. Rusted hinges. Cold metal handle. Unlocked. The air that drifted up when she opened it felt wrong, not just cold, but still, like it hadn't moved in years. Her phone light cut through the darkness in a narrow beam as she stepped down the concrete stairs, each step slightly damp, faintly uneven. Marcus followed, quieter than usual. The corridor below opened suddenly, wider than expected, lined with old cabinets stretching into shadow. Labels peeled, paint chipped, surfaces untouched for decades. Except for one section. Neatly marked. Archive, do not index. Inside, the files mirrored the ones above. Same glossy finish. Same familiar locations. Same impossible timestamps. Elin flipped one open. Same street. Same angle. Same figure. Closer now. The monitor shouldn't have worked. Dust coated its surface, wires trailing loosely behind it, yet when Ellie pressed the power button, the screen flickered to life with a dull, persistent hum. Static bled across it for a moment before resolving into grainy footage. The same street. Rain falling. Exactly like tonight. Ellie felt something tighten in her chest as she leaned closer, her reflection faintly visible in the dark glass overlaying the image. The camera angle was precise, too precise. It matched the view outside almost perfectly. Then she saw it, the figure. Standing at the far end of the road. Still. Watching. Marcus shifted behind her, his presence suddenly more noticeable in the quiet. "That's not possible," he muttered. The figure in the footage moved slightly. Not walking. Not stepping. Just shifting. Ellie's breath caught. Because it wasn't the video that made her tense, it was the feeling. Someone standing behind her. Closer than Marcus. Too close. They watched in silence as another recording began, this time from inside the archive itself. The angle faced down the same corridor they stood in now, the same cabinets, the same flickering overhead light. At first, nothing moved. Then footsteps echoed through the speakers, faint, delayed. Two figures entered the frame. Ellie. Marcus. Exactly as they were now. Same clothes. Same posture. Same hesitation. Marcus took a slow step backward, shaking his head as if rejecting what he was seeing. "That's not real." Ellie didn't respond. She was watching the timestamp. 1 hour ahead. On screen, Marcus turned toward her. His mouth moved. No sound came through. Then, the lights in the video went out. At that exact moment, the overhead light above them flickered. Violently. Marcus grabbed her arm. And for a second. The corridor didn't match anymore, the shift wasn't dramatic. That's what made it worse. It was subtle. Wrong in small ways. Cabinet slightly out of alignment. Walls stretching just a little farther than before. Shadows pooling in corners that hadn't been dark seconds ago. Ellie turned quickly. Marcus was gone. Not stepped away. Not hiding. Gone. Marcus. Her voice sounded thinner than she expected, swallowed by the space around her. No answer. She moved faster now, turning corners, retracing steps, but the layout resisted her. Parts looped. Angles changed. Familiarity slipped away with each movement. She found the monitor again. Another video was already playing. Same corridor. Same space. Except the figure at the end wasn't her. It wasn't Marcus. It was something else. Tall. Still. Watching. Breathing became louder than everything else. Ellie could hear her own pulse, feel it in her throat, her ears, her fingertips as she stared at the screen. The video continued without interruption, the corridor stretching endlessly behind the figure as it stood there, waiting. Then it moved. Slow. Deliberate. Closer. Ellie stepped back instinctively. The screen flickered. Changed. Now it showed her standing exactly where she was. Alone. Behind her. Something emerged. Not fully visible. Not fully formed. Just enough to understand it was there. Her eyes dropped to the label at the top of the screen. It had changed. Archive, corrected timeline. A sound behind her? Not loud, not sudden. Just present. Ellie turned slowly. Something stood there. Not quite shaped like her. Not quite shaped like anything human. But close enough to understand. And somewhere, in a different version of this same place. A file slid neatly into a box. Misfiled. Waiting to be found again.